All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My weekly picks in the world of the National Football League. We're up to week number 4, and week number 4 did not get started on the best of foots as I picked the Green Bay Packers to hold serve at home this past Thursday night against the Detroit Lions, but that was not the case as it was the Lions that went to Lambeau and got their second consecutive win there. And now they are sitting alone in first place in the NFC North. But with that said, we've got some good games on tap for tomorrow as well as the Monday night affair. And with that said, here are my picks for week number 4 in this NFL season. Now, we're going to get things started off tomorrow morning in London as you're going to have the Jacksonville Jaguars getting it on with the Atlanta Falcons. For Atlanta, they come into this contest with a record of 2-1. They suffered defeat for the first time this season last week at the hands of the Lions. And for the Falcons, they want to get back to what they do best, and that is running the football. And I expect um, Atlanta to get this game started with their running game, especially with the rookie Bijan Robinson. For Jacksonville on the flip side, they've lost their last two, both at home. And I think, a lot of people expected them to lose to Kansas City in week number 2. Not as many people expected them to lose to the Texans last week. More importantly, get dominated like they did against the Texans. What Jacksonville has to do first and foremost, when they get the ball in the red zone, they've got to score touchdowns. Number 2, Trevor Lawrence has to do a better job with the football as well. Will Jacksonville be able to get back on track tomorrow against the Atlanta Falcons? I think they'll look better, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. I'm not sure if Jacksonville's defense can stop this Atlanta run attack. And with that said, I'm going to take Atlanta in London by the score of 27-20. Now, moving over to stateside, you got a big time showdown in the AFC East. We're talking about the undefeated Miami Dolphins making their trip to Orchard Park to take on the 2-1 Buffalo Bills. And a lot of excitement is around this Dolphins team, especially after what we saw them do last week as they hung 70 on the Denver Broncos. Now, this rivalry, and it's starting to get back to that point, has the opportunity to be what it was in the late 80s and early 90s. And you think about it, those days with Jim Kelly and Dan Marino at quarterback for their respective teams. You think about the defensive players, the likes of Brian Cox from Miami, as well as Bruce Smith. And for the most part in those days, winning the AFC East came down to Miami and Buffalo. Now, these two teams met 3 times last year. Each game was highly contested. Each game was very close. The home team won each contest last year, but those games could have gone either way. And for Miami, they saw their season end in Orchard Park last year. And this is a better Dolphins team now. They got a healthy Tua at quarterback. And as they're looking to keep Tua healthy, a quarterback's best friend is the running game. And Buffalo's going to have their hands full with that. And if Miami can get their running game going, forget about it with this passing game because we're just talking about speed with the likes of Tyreek Hill at wide receiver for the Dolphins. And Miami's playing some D as well. So that's going to be important because Josh Allen at times can start off slow at quarterback for Buffalo, and he could also have some lulls. And I don't think this is going to be a game where Josh Allen is going to be able to have some lulls. Now, Buffalo is running the football better themselves so far this season. And for me, Buffalo is one of those teams, they tend to answer the bell when they play the better teams. Sometimes they play down to the level of their competition and they know how important that tomorrow's game is because Buffalo cannot afford to fall behind Miami 2 games in the standings. However, when it's all said and done, I think Miami is the better team. I don't see Miami hanging 70 on the Bills tomorrow, but I think they're going to be close to doing at least half of it. And with that said, I'm going to take the Dolphins on the road tomorrow by the score of 34-27. Now, in the Windy City at Soldier Field, somebody's got to win, as you've got the winless Chicago Bears hosting the winless Denver Broncos. And, I just spoke about the Broncos, and they gave up 70 points last week against Miami, and Miami made it look very easy. If you're Denver, you obviously want to put last week's loss behind you, and obviously they probably have at this point. But nonetheless, I think this Broncos defense has to be challenged to say, you know what, we can't do this again. They've got to come out there angry and they have to find a way to sustain it. Now, they're facing a Bears offense that is one dimensional, and their only dimension is the running ability of their quarterback, Justin Fields. Chicago has not won a game in almost a calendar year. This is not a very good football team. Denver isn't that much better either right now. Somebody's got to win this game, and I'm going to give the slight edge to the Broncos to go on the road and get their first win for first-year head coach Sean Payton, as I'm going to take Denver in this contest by the score of 20-16. Now, a battle of 2-1 clubs in the AFC North, and the winner here could be in first place all by their lonesome. And I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore tasted defeat this season for the first time last week as they were upset at home, courtesy of the Indianapolis Colts. The Ravens are still dealing with injuries on the offensive side of the ball. No Odell Beckham once again at wide receiver. And if you looked at that game last week when Baltimore lost to Indianapolis, their offense resembled what we saw of them the last couple of years with Lamar Jackson at quarterback, with Lamar Jackson trying to do everything. Will this Cleveland Browns defense be able to take advantage of those injuries? You got to wait and see. Now, for Baltimore, they're back to winning ugly, and their defense is going to have to go out there and make a statement in this one. It hasn't been pretty for the Cleveland Browns offense so far this season, but nonetheless, they are 2-1. I think this is the toughest division in football this year. Make no mistake about it, because all four of these teams have the ability to win this division, even for Cleveland without the services of Nick Chubb, obviously, for the rest of the season. This is going to be a physical, nasty, ugly, typical Ravens Browns AFC North type game. Cleveland comes into this contest favored by 2 points at home, but I'm going to take Baltimore on the road by the score of 22-20. I just don't see the Ravens losing two in a row. Now, you're going to have the Cincinnati Bengals, who finally got their first win of the season last week on Monday night, traveling to Nashville to take on the 1-2 Titans. And when you think about the meetings that these two teams have had in recent years, very physical. For the most part, they've been determined within the trenches, and we've seen this Bengals defensive line, pardon me, this Titans defensive line rather, get the best of the Bengals offensive line. And it's going to be important for Cincinnati to hold serve, because they've got to protect Joe Burrow. Burrow's dealing with that calf injury, and you have a ferocious defensive line for the Titans led by Jeffrey Simmons that can tee off. Now, the Tennessee offense, of course, we know that their bread is buttered by this run game. Can they get it going and slow down this game and limit the amount of opportunities that Burrow and company are going to have offensively? The first team to 20 wins this game. Cincinnati is favored by 2.5. The over under is 41. I'm going with the under on this one, and I'm going to take the Bengals on the road by the score of 20-17. Now, in the Dome in Indianapolis, you're going to have the Colts hosting the Rams. The Rams come into this contest with a record of 1-2, while the Colts are 2-1. And this game right now is even. It's a toss-up. It can go either way. First things first, I want to see how this Colts offensive line is going to deal with the likes of Aaron Donald, one of the better defensive tackles in NFL history, coming at you. Now, Anthony Richardson is expected to play, a dynamic rookie at the quarterback position. So what will this Rams defense be able to do with him? We've got to wait and see. You've got veteran quarterback Matt Stafford and this Rams offense. They're not looking like the championship juggernaut that they were a couple of years ago, but they still look better than they did last year. And I think Los Angeles finds a way to win this contest on the road. And because of that, I'm going to take the Rams by the score of 27-20. Now, in the Superdome, you're going to have the 2-1 New Orleans Saints hosting the 2-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both of these teams tasted defeat last week for the first time this season, and both of them want to get back on track. Things went wrong in a hurry for the New Orleans Saints at Lambeau. They were up 17-0. Derek Carr injured his shoulder, and before you knew it, the Saints fell to the Packers 18-17. Derek Carr is expected to play tomorrow for the Saints. And I think the best thing that you can do when you've got an ailing quarterback, you go out there and run the football effectively and you lean on your defense. It's been a good start so far for Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had their chances last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think Lady Luck is going to strike them tomorrow. New Orleans is just a better team. They are the best team in the NFC South, in my opinion. And because of that, I'm going to take the Saints at home tomorrow by the score of 24-17. Now, you're going to have the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles hosting the 2-1 Washington Commanders. Now, the Commanders handed Philadelphia their first loss of the 2022 season, but can they do it here again in 2023? Philadelphia comes into this contest favored by 9 points. And it's very interesting because the Eagles are 3-0, but I feel like they have not played their best football yet. I just I just don't see the cohesiveness yet on offense for Philadelphia. Not to say that it's not coming, and I think Philadelphia is going to try to do that. They need to get their run game going against this stout Washington front, and I say stout front, but this Commanders defense, they got lit up, and I mean honestly, in every facet of the game, the Commanders got embarrassed last week, courtesy of the Buffalo Bills. 9 sacks by that Bills defense on Commanders quarterback Sam Howell. And I guarantee you the Eagles have seen that game tape on this one. The Commanders will have a more spirited effort than we saw from them last week at home, but it's not going to be enough as I'm going to take Philadelphia in this one at home by the score of 29-19. Now in Charlotte, another battle of winless football teams this season is you're going to have the 0-3 Carolina Panthers hosting the surprising 0-3 Minnesota Vikings. And for the Vikings, I talked about it during the week. Their penchant for winning those close games last year has done a complete 180 so far this season for Kirk Cousins and company as they've just found ways to lose. I think the Vikings came out desperate last week, but they also faced a desperate winless Chargers team. But they're going to have to come out desperate again against a very game Carolina team. Excuse me, the Panthers, they're winless, yes, but they have a fighting spirit about them, and I think they're going to improve as the season goes on. Carolina is expected to have Bryce Young back at quarterback in this one, and I guarantee you that Panthers wide receiver Adam Thielen has had this game circled on his calendar for a very long time. After so many good years with the Minnesota Vikings, but nonetheless, the Vikings are the better team. I think they find a way to squeak one out against the Panthers tomorrow. And because of that, I'm going to take Minnesota on the road by the score of 24-20. Now in Houston, you're going to have the 1-2 Texans hosting the 2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. And for Houston, they got their first win of the season last week in dominating fashion as rookie quarterback CJ Stroud has his coming out party. Now he's got to deal with this mangy and nasty Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Now, Pittsburgh comes into this contest favored by 3 points, and I guarantee you this is not going to be a cakewalk. Why? Because this Texans defense is flying around the football for first year head coach D'Amico Ryans. And as the next coming years come and he's starting to get more talent on that side of the ball, this Texans defense has the ability to be a top 5 unit in the NFL. Now, I think they're going to go out there and make life tough for the youngster at quarterback for the Steelers and Kenny Pickett. But he has a solid running game with Najee Harris, and I think he needs to lean on it here. Field position, special teams, and turnovers will be a big factor in this contest. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh on the road by the score of 23-19. Now you're going to have the 1-2 Las Vegas Raiders traveling to take on the 1-2 Los Angeles Chargers. And this season, I really do believe is on the verge of unraveling very quickly for the Vegas Raiders. Not a good team. Um, I've talked about the Josh McDaniels factor before, and I think it's about to show its ugly head this time in Vegas for the Silver and Black. On the flip side, for the Chargers, they got off the canvas last week, got their first win of the season. Like I said, they were desperate last week because they did not want to fall to 0-3. And I think Justin Herbert and company are going to have the opportunity to build off of that. And I think they make the most of it tomorrow. Thus, I'm going to take the Lightning Bolts at home by the score of 30-20. Now in Arlington, you're going to have the 2-1 Dallas Cowboys hosting the 1-2 New England Patriots. And for Dallas, they were surprise losers last week. I know they had some injuries, but they were still a big time favorite on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. And I don't care what anybody says. Dallas played down to the Cardinals and paid for it. Now Dallas definitely needs to get back on track. Dak Prescott and company need to get back on track on offense, but also Dak's going up against a head coach slash defensive coordinator and Bill Belichick that knows how to make life tough for quarterbacks over the years. And he has an opportunity to do it tomorrow. But on the flip side, this Dallas defense is facing a Patriots quarterback, Mac Jones, who is not exactly John Elway back there as far as lighting it up in the pocket. And Mac Jones himself can be starry-eyed back there. And I think this Dallas defense takes advantage of that. Of course, the Cowboys are welcoming back a former friend, as longtime Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott is now a member of the Patriots. I don't see him having a big game against his former club. And because of that, I'm going to take Dallas at home tomorrow by the score of 29-20. Now in Santa Clara, you're going to have the undefeated San Francisco 49ers hosting the 1-2 Arizona Cardinals. And for the Niners, they come into this game favored by 2 touchdowns, but they obviously have to pay attention to what happened when Arizona was a big time underdog at home last week to the Dallas Cowboys and made them pay for it. Joshua Dobbs has had his ups and downs at quarterback for the Cardinals, but this is going to be his toughest task of the season going up against this Niners pass rush. A lot of talent at the skill positions for the 49ers. And unlike the Dallas Cowboys last week, I don't think that they give the Cardinals the opportunity to have that quick get off or make an impact in this game. I think the 49ers distance themselves from the Cardinals early. I think the 49ers win. It won't be a runaway per se, but nonetheless, I'm going to take San Francisco at home by the score of 30-17. And for tomorrow night, if anybody's really interested in watching it, you got the 2-1 Kansas City Chiefs traveling to the Meadowlands to take on the 1-2 New York Jets. And of course, when the schedules came out, this was a game that a lot of people had interest in, being that the Jets had Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And of course, the important word is had. Now, we've seen the struggles of Zach Wilson this season. We've seen the struggles of Zach Wilson before. And I guarantee you, Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, is not going to let up. When in the NFL, especially, when people find out there's something that you can't do or you're uncomfortable with, they're going to keep doing it until you prove them wrong. And right now, Zach Wilson is just a deer in the headlights back there at quarterback for the Jets. The Jets have their offensive line issues, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs defensively are going to tee off on that. We haven't even talked about the Jets having to deal with quarterback Patrick Mahomes and this offense. I think Kansas City wins this game going away. It's going to be a laugher. And I'm going to take the Chiefs to roll by the score of 34-13. And sticking with the Meadowlands, just like it was in week number 1, this time the Jets and Giants have flipped. It's the Giants playing on Monday night as they are set to host the Seattle Seahawks. You look at the Giants, they were staring at starting off 0-2, which could have been easily 0-3 on their West Coast trip. Came back to beat the Cardinals, had a reality check waiting for them last Thursday night against the San Francisco 49ers without the services of running back Saquon Barkley. Barkley is doubtful for this contest as he's still recovering from that ankle injury, while Andrew Thomas, the left tackle for New York, is going to be out. It's going to be up, number one, to this defense for the Giants. Can they find a way to make Seahawks veteran quarterback Geno Smith uncomfortable? They have to keep this Seattle offense off schedule. On the flip side, for the Giants and Daniel Jones, they've got to step up and make plays. And I think the most important thing for the Giants, they have to score early. They have to score a touchdown or two to get this crowd into this game. It's going to be very important to see what type of rhythm that the Giants are able to establish. But more importantly, this is one of those games where it can go either way, and the mistakes by either team, turnovers, lost opportunities to create turnovers, penalties, you name it, they are going to be magnified. I want to pick the Giants, but without Saquon Barkley, I just don't see them getting it done on offense. And because of that, I'm going to take Seattle on the road by the score of 22-17. So, folks, those are my picks here in week number 4 of this NFL season. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.